what was the specific role that HR played in the transformation? I know when we were talking last week, we talked about things like culture and operating model and other areas. So it'd be interesting to hear some of those, because I guess there's a lot of moving parts.
I mean, the first thing to say is that a lot of things that are clearly anything in the people space, HR would be leading that project. They would be the head of a horse. A lot of the transformations actually, then it's sponsored by a president. In the things that I've worked, the president sponsoring, and then your steerco is, your HR lead, your finance president, who are really guiding the project. And so really it's then taking the mission, the strategy, and saying, what do we need in terms of ways of working? What do we need in terms of cultural shift, behavioural shift, capability? And actually lastly, what does the organisation need to change? So do the boxes need to change?
Yeah. So again, very much a cross-functional approach rather than, you're working very closely with colleagues in other business functions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you can't do it in isolation. But I think that the lead really, so the lead of it is generally HR. If it's a people project, I mean, when we did the integration work, there was a significant amount of IT, financial process change. So there was a people work stream, there was an IT work stream, and then there was a financial work stream, just because of the nature of the complexity of that. But generally, when we're looking at how do we adapt our operating model, it would be HR-led.
So, what was the hardest part? What is the hardest part of driving transformation? Because I think we agreed now transformation is almost a continuous thing. But what's the hardest part you find that?
There's lots of things that are hard. I guess generally you've got in transformation there's usually a lot of complexity. So there's so much going on. So first of all, it's just kind of distilling and cutting through that. I think I've learned that data transparency can be a challenge, and the scrabbling around for data. And so we've been working quite hard to have more at the fingertips data and global transparency. I think sometimes it's hard to make sure you keep focusing on delivery. So we put in regular every 4-week communication where we are on that. So really the follow through is really important. People can get quite excited at the beginning, but actually it's about getting really to the end. It can be quite hard in the sense of if you have long transformations, particularly when you've got very big ones. So I think Wrigley and chocolate. When it takes a couple of years, the world doesn't stop.
No,
the outside world doesn't stop. So there's you've got to keep the sense of the agility and actually at points in time, are we still heading in the right direction? And sometimes it can be a question because people are really resisting the change, or it can be right to change the direction. So I think just keeping an eye on that and the sense of not getting outdated with your transformation if it takes too long. But probably the biggest thing that I've learned is the people side of change. It's actually how you change hearts and minds.
Yeah.
You can change the logical stuff. But actually, when even if I think about the transformation of our own function, HR, you can, put everything in place for strategic business partners. But you have to convince every single line manager that they go to the service centre now. They don't go to the person that used to be the generalist help for them.
Yeah.
You've got to actually persuade and make people confident and train strategic business partners with strategic business partner skills, which we are, because they're actually, if they've been generalists before, they're naturally more comfortable there.
Yeah.
And therefore you've got to put that investment in skills. And we've done work on the innovation and trying to do more global innovation. And so we've got markets where historically did the innovation for themselves, and so their identity was I make for myself, I do everything for myself. And from an efficiency perspective, that doesn't make sense. And so you're changing really their identity from I'm in control of everything to actually I need to be a brilliant executor.
Yeah.
And therefore what you need to do is take them on that journey, and that needs sponsorship, it needs the leadership continually there, it needs line managers knowing their role and training, it needs constant communication through the corporate affairs teams, and it needs actually celebration when it's happening. So it's that part that's the hardest, the logical stuff.
Yeah, it's not just moving people into different boxes.
No, it isn't. No. It isn't at all. Yeah.
And what are some of the practical things that you've done to help win those hearts and minds? Both for people who are maybe changing their roles, but also, customers in the business are actually having to go to the service centre, for example, instead of the HR generalist?
Well, the first thing we've done is actually recognise change management as a real skill in our business. So, we've got a way of doing it. We've adopted a methodology, and we've actually trained the HR people to do it. So that first thing is recognising you need it. And the second is in when we've done the transformation projects, we will have a change manager. So what's critical in the makeup is you have clearly a sponsor. You have to have the project manager that's controlling it, and then you need a change management expert as well. So bringing in that those change managers both globally, regionally, and in the markets, and then they go through the methodology, which essentially starts from engaging who's going to lead this, who's going to sponsor it, what is the training plan. So developing the training plan, what's the comms plan, how are you going to assess, where you've got tensions, so creating heat maps of areas of resistance, and then going in and doing that. So that's really now operating in the business, and I personally believe actually it's a core capability of strategic business partners because of the future. So that's where we're clearly driving that through our organisation.
In this series, we will be speaking to a range of senior leaders who are pushing a data-driven and digital HR agenda. Make sure that you subscribe via your podcast app of choice and also via our YouTube channel for free and regular interviews with the digital HR leaders of the future.